My mum had me at quite a young age, so my aunt and uncle had offered to take me on. It was such a difficult time of my life. I deliberately behaved so badly because I thought they would take me back. I refused to call my mum mum.
Tell me about how the process or how your journey in the bond with your mother.
My mum will tell me stories of, but I used to see you when you was younger, but I don't have those memories. And it's not until you get to a much later stage in your life that you look back and you think, actually, that's actually grounded me.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Authentic Turning Point. Today we're speaking to Paulette Owusu, multi-talented woman and business owner. And we're going to find out today about Paulette's Authentic Turning Point. Welcome Paulette, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Today. So it's been a real journey for you. I know a part of your journey and I'm really inspired by your journey.
Yeah.
So, and I do also have your book with me as well, but we're going to get to all of your multi-talented and just what you do. So where should we start? Tell me about Paulette. Tell me about Paulette.
So I'll start from childhood. So I was raised with my aunt and uncle. Didn't live with my parents. I was raised with my aunt and uncle until the age of 14. Which is when I then went back to live with my mum. My mum had me at quite a young age, so my aunt and uncle had offered to take me on. So I lived there with my 5 cousins, and then later on we had another 3 cousins that came over to live with us. So I was the youngest of 8, and I was there until I was 14. Up until this day, I'm still known as their little sister. We all went to the same secondary school together. And then at the age of 14, I went back to live with my mum. And that's when things started to kind of spiral a little bit, behaviour-wise. I was deliberately, I think, playing up because I wanted to go back to my aunt and uncle's. But my mum wasn't having any of it. But yeah, and then from there, went to secondary school, then went on to college, went from being the youngest to the eldest. So when I went to live with my mum, I then was the eldest of 3, and that was difficult.
Yeah, so tell me about the process or, your self-talk when you had to leave your uncle and auntie, who I guess was known to you as your primary family, and then going to your mum, mum's home. What was the process internally for you?
Internally, I became very angry. I couldn't understand why I had to go. I knew she was my mum, but I couldn't understand why I had to go. My mum would tell me stories of, but I used to see you when you was younger, but I don't have those memories. I just remember her from about the age of 11. And then I was going there every weekend. And I tried everything that I could to misbehave so that I could go back. And then I became angry with my aunt and her uncle because I thought, why don't you want me? Why are you sending me back there? But I didn't realise until I got older that they were actually fighting for my mum to just leave me there, because they were saying to her, look, she's done most of her life here, just leave her. But my mum had, she'd got into another relationship and she wanted all her children together. So I was there. So the feeling of that, it was, do you know what, it was such a difficult time of my life, moving from my aunt and uncle's house, going to my mum's, and still going through school as well. So I was coming to the end of, I was not coming to the end, I was halfway through secondary school. I was in secondary school, hormones were changing, everything. And then all of a sudden, I was moving. So eventually, I moved to my mum's, but I went through so much disarray. I deliberately behaved so badly because I thought they would take me back, but it didn't work like that. And then I had to get used to everybody around me. So the neighbours, people were like, who are you? And then it was that other emotion of, nobody knows who I am. Do you not speak about me? Why does no one know me? You know, then I had to get to know my brother and sister because I didn't really know them.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of tension, there was a lot of dark moments, you know, and as much as I liked being in the house, it was completely different. But I missed all that fun of all my cousins and, you know, all of us being together and getting up to mischief. And then we came here and I refused to call my mum. I was calling her by her name. So that was causing conflict because I grew up calling my aunt and uncle mum and dad.
Okay. Yeah.
So when I came to live with my mum, it was really difficult to then call her mum because I didn't see her like that. So it took me a long time to get to that stage of having a close bond with her. And then I think the bond developed when my aunt passed away. And that was just another whole emotion. And I think that was when I then went internally and told myself, no, you shouldn't cry because crying is for weak people. Okay. And that was where that whole emotion of, no, I don't show my emotions. I just go through life. Nobody can't make me show emotions. I didn't show emotions when my aunt died, and you know, things like that. So, but then I needed somebody. So then I started to latch onto my mom.
I see. So your aunt that died, that's the aunt that you called your mum who had raised you with your uncle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So in a sense, then, would you say that if you think about a foster child's experience, so it doesn't seem that way because these are your family.
Yeah.
It's not total strangers that's taken you in, so it's a different scenario. However, when you think about somebody who's been a foster child and has been maybe raised with carers who they now see as their parents, and then maybe their parents now want them back, I guess you can really relate to that then.
Definitely. I do relate to children who have been fostered and children that either don't know their parents, you know, and they're in search of them and they may get lost along the way. I can relate to all of those emotions. It's not until you get much older, because I've then had to deal with kind of like these emotions since age 11, going back and forth, and then you get to 14 and then it's definitely over there. And it's not until you get to a much later stage in your life that you look back and you think, actually, that's actually grounded me and taught me some valuable lessons in life. And my uncle was very philosophical, and he used to come out with some sayings, and you know, a lot of them have kind of stuck in my head, and I hear myself saying it to my own children now. So I do, even now, I still look at children that are in foster care and things, and I think, I totally understand where you're going. I totally understand where you're coming from. I totally get that emotion.
Yeah. So tell me about how the process or how your journey in the bond with your mother. Tell me about that. How did that begin? What did you begin to do? I
think I was about, I'm trying to remember how old I was when my aunt passed. I think I was about 25 when my aunt passed, and up until that point, I was still living with my mom, and yes, we got on. We had our differences and things, and we got on, but there was still a piece of something missing. Something still wasn't there, and I think it's going back to that when they say to you, the saying, give me a child until he is 7 and I will give you the man. It's that bit there, that from birth to 7-year-old, that if you miss that bond with a particular adult in your life, then it's really hard to try and like sew that.
Yeah.
If you haven't had that there, and I had that there with my aunt and uncle. So going back to my mum and how we became close, I was still, even though I was living with her, I was still leaving the house on the weekend, and I was still going there and spending my Christmases. Some Christmases I did spend with my mum, but at the weekends I was still going back and staying at the house, you know, because that was my go-to, that was my comfort zone. And then when she passed away, it was an awful moment for all of us, you know, everybody. And it was just, I guess, because she was the pinnacle of the family, she was just the forefront of everything. It was always, nobody expected it. No one thought she would ever go. And then suddenly she's gone. And then you're looking around you and then everybody's trying to latch onto something. And then I thought, hold on a minute. Who's around me? Where's my mum? I need my mum. And then I thought, but you've got one. And that's when I thought, okay. So then I made a conscious effort to not deliberately get into an argument with her.
This is your biological mum?
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah. So I made a conscious effort to stop getting into a deliberate argument with her. And she always used to say, you never listen to me, you don't listen to me. And in my head, I used to think, yeah, but I've got somebody I can listen to. But after a while, I thought to myself, do you know what? No, this is your biological mum. She hasn't done anything to you apart from hand you to somebody, you know, that nurtured you and looked after you because she was too young at the time. So I then started to build that rapport with her and made sure that I was in her presence more and made sure I would say things like, okay, let's go out, you know, because before I wouldn't go out with them. I would always go back to...
So you was about 25 around okay.
Yeah, so I would always go back to my aunt and my cousins and my uncle. And, you know, in the end I thought, right, okay, it's me now. I need to make this bond here because I've pushed them away for so long. I didn't think there was any coming back, but there was. And at the end of the day, like my mum said, you're my daughter, you'll always be my daughter. So then we started to become closer and we started to go out more, we started to talk more. Yeah. And then when things was happening, I would come and talk to her and I thought, oh, she has got some good ideas, you know. Whereas before I didn't experience that with her. And then sitting, talking to her and listening to her life story, it was like a vicious circle.
Wow.
It was a vicious circle for her. So, you know, we became close and then I started to include her in decisions in my life.
Okay.
And then I think I was about 28 and then I bought my flat. But she wasn't here when I'd done it. And then she came back. But there was still a part of me that thought, oh, well, it's not important. She doesn't need to know. She can find out when she comes back. But she was so upset. And I remember spending ages and ages feeling really bad that I hadn't told her. And I think if my aunt had still been around, I wouldn't have felt bad.
Okay. So tell me about, just want to take you back a bit.
Yeah.
Tell me about that point where you felt that there was no going back. So before you went back, you had a feeling or an experience of, gosh, there's no going back. Tell me about what that felt like. What does the feeling of there's no going back feel like? What happens in that space?
It feels as though you can't make amends with what you've crashed. And you end up feeling lonely and fearful. And then it's the case of, okay, well, I caused this. No one's going to forgive me now. So how do I make this right? And I was quite stubborn as well. So because I didn't know how to put it right, I started to tell myself, well, no, I'm in the right. I haven't done anything wrong here. You left me. I didn't leave you. You know, it's your fault. And then before you know it, you turn around and you think, actually, I feel quite alone, but I don't know which way to turn now. So I started going back to my cousins more, but everybody's still grieving because, you know, my aunt's gone, their mum is gone, you know, and my uncle was still around. So I started to latch onto him a bit more, but then he became ill. And within the next year, he was gone. Wow. Straight after her.
Straight after your auntie.
Yeah, the year later, he was, he passed away. And so now there's nobody.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I could hear them all, you know, I could hear my cousins and everyone saying, we're orphans. And I was like, well, actually, I'm not quite an orphan. I've still got, I felt a bit bad because I was like, well, I'm not actually quite an orphan. I've still got my mom. And I remember one of my cousins saying to me, do you know what? We need to make sure that we hang on to our elders and the people around us because, look, these two have gone within a year of each other. And it's so hard now, you know, we can't go and speak to them and ask them their and ask for their opinion and things like that. And it just made me sit and think, and I thought, do you know what? I really need to find a way. And I was scared.
A way back to your mum.
Yeah.
Because the fact is, your mum was pursuing you, wasn't she?
Yeah,
from what
she
you were
was.
saying.
Yeah.
But you was doing this.
Yes, I was,
Okay.
because I already had
so
that
she
side.
had a whole door open for you. Come on, Paulette, come on, Paulette. But you was like,
right.
no, which is understandable because that was your primary family, really. Your auntie and your uncle, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it wasn't until later when I then started to speak to my mum. And sometimes she would have her back to me when I'm speaking and I could see her stop. But when I look back at that now, I think to myself, she was kind of like spurring me on and thinking that if she turned around, I might stop talking. Whereas it was in her head, she was thinking, please keep talking to me, please keep talking to me. And I did. And eventually she would turn and eventually we would have a conversation and we built a relationship. I don't even remember at what point it was then, this is my mom. I don't remember that point.
Yeah.
But I just remember looking back one day thinking, this is my mom. She gave birth to me.
So you accepted, because from the story that you're telling me, it's almost as if the journey was, okay, so my auntie and my uncle, they raised me. They were my parents. My mum, why did you give me away, is what I'm hearing you say. And she's explained to you. So it seems like you came to a place, from what I'm hearing you say, that you accepted the reason why your mum gave you away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that it was for your good because she was young.
Yeah, definitely.
And so all those indicators helped you to maybe open up and accept, to walk forward. And
it's about, you start to grow up, don't you? You start to grow up and, you know, and then there was the emotion of, well, where's my dad? Where's my dad? And then when my mum started to tell me her story, and then she started to tell me about the story of her and my dad, and then looking back at that, then I thought, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And then I felt like a really horrible person. And I thought, your mum has been through so much, you know, and all she's done is tried to protect you.
Yeah.
But you have constantly spent your whole life fighting her, pushing her away, you know, and now that feeling of going back, I had to kind of get over my stubbornness and start to put it right. But she didn't ever have to try and put it right because she was always there trying to make it right. I just didn't see it.
Yeah, so you came to a place of acceptance. I do love, and especially for those people that are listening right now, you know, if you're feeling, gosh, there's nowhere back to somewhere, you know, Paulette, you've just showed us that, you know, you can take control. And obviously your situation might be different from Paulette's. I really do hear that. But even just using Paulette's example today, what you're saying is you felt there was nowhere back. You described to us earlier how feeling like there's nowhere back feels like what you're thinking. However, you took control and you made a decision to make your way back, to accept your biological mum, to accept your mum who had wanted to keep her baby safe. That you're a mother of two sons, right? So you could imagine the pain, what your mum, that's a massive decision for a mother.
Of course, yeah.
No mother really wants to let go of her child, but to keep her child safe, you know, she had to let you go for a while. Yeah. Hence why she came back for you when she was in a position to be able to take you back. So how is your relationship with your mum now? I mean, you've described it a bit, but
it's amazing. It's amazing. We're like sisters, me, her, and my sister. We're just, you know, we go out, we laugh, we joke, you know, we take the mickey out of each other. You know, yes, we still have our banters, and sometimes my mum has to be like, "I'm still your mum, you know." We'll put you back in your place, you know. Ones. Yeah, but the relationship now, it's good. It's good. So I can't complain. You know, I can go to her now about anything. We talk. You know, we'll cook together. She'll come over. You know, the relationship there is like how your relationship should be with your mum. They get on your nerves. You know, they say things and you think, why did you just say that to me? Yeah. But there's that that missing piece of the puzzle, that missing piece doesn't feel missing anymore. It's connected.
Wow. What do you think that missing piece was?
I think it was just the early nurture stage. I think it was just that early stage of, like someone feeds you, they love you, they teach you how to walk and all of that stuff. I think it was just that gap of her not being there in that gap was missing. And you often hear people saying, if you haven't got that, it can't be replaced. But I don't believe that now. I now don't believe that.
So how old, just going back a bit, how old was you when you started to live with your auntie and your uncle?
So my mum was living with them already.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was you born into the household then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So she was already living with them.
Okay.
And she was young when she had me. And then she started to then work and things like that. And they said to her, leave her, it's fine. You go out to work and come back.
Okay.
So as far as my mum's concerned, and as far as my cousins tell me, although I have no memory of it, they said your mum actually lived here until you was 11.
11 years old?
Yeah.
So she was with you all
Not
of
until
that
11,
time?
sorry, until about 8. She was with me until I was 8.
So she was with you from what time? Oh, wow.
But I have no memory of that.
Okay.
None whatsoever. And I have tried, but I don't have a memory of her being there. I have memories of her moving to her house with her new partner. And then my brother and sister were born, and I remember going there for the weekends. And then coming back to my aunt and uncles. But I don't remember her living in the house with us.
Right, I see.
I just don't remember. So, yeah.
Thanks for going back there and clearing that bit up for us. So, what do you think your auntie would be saying to you and your mum now?
She had a nickname for me. I used to laugh with people and say, I don't actually think she actually knew my name. Because she used to, the rest of the family, even now, they used to call me Skeen. Okay. And my aunt used to call me Mary Ann.
Okay.
So, and I used to say, I don't think they actually know my name. But I think if she could see us now, I think she'd be so proud at the bond that we've built between us.
Yeah.
And she'd probably be saying something like, I was about to knock your heads together.
Yeah.
But I think because she was always laughing. She was always laughing, always smiling about something. Yeah. Sometimes you didn't even know what she was laughing at. Yeah. You know, so, but I think she would be so happy to see the relationship now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So just moving forward now, I know that you're so talented. Paulette, she's written a book. I'm going to show you the book now, one I prepared earlier. She's written a book called Silent River. Paulette is also has her own photography business as well. And you also do quilling.
Yes.
You're so talented. There's so much in you. But what I love about you is that you've just totally allowed yourself to authentically express yourself into the world. And so I know from some of your stories as well that you was writing a book for about 12 years.
Yeah.
But you just wanted to complete this.
Yeah.
And I know that together with your book and also your photography, which you're now a business owner of, before that you was like doing your 9-to-5 job, etc. Tell me a bit about that. And now I also want you to wrap up and tell me also about your turning point.
Yes, so I started writing the book about 12 years ago. And the book was birthed from always wanting to tell stories. And there was so much people around me with their own stories. I had lots of stories that I wanted to tell from my own childhood as well. And because I just love writing and making things up, I listened to that voice of my teacher and I thought, do you know what? I am going to write a book. So I started it. And the first chapter of the book, people are very much like, it's mixed feelings. People are very much like, oh my goodness, I wish I didn't read that chapter. Or other people are like, oh my goodness, how explosive. But like I say to people, I was brought up very superstitiously. And people around me at the time were brought up very superstitiously. So there was lots going on, and there was people in particular that had different stories. So chapter 1 of the book is actually somebody's reality that I've had permission to put in the book. So that's why it opens so explosively. And the rest of it, I just kind of ran with. But it took me so long because I had a brain block. I started writing and I was writing so much and so much was coming in and there was so much energy into the book. And all of a sudden I got up one morning and it just froze. There was nothing there.
Oh, wow.
So I thought, that's okay. It's okay. It will come back. And it didn't. Then 12 years later, during lockdown, all of a sudden there was something in me that said, get the manuscript. So I had to search for it because I'd left it somewhere on the laptop. So I searched for the manuscript, found it, and I thought, oh my goodness. So the first 3 chapters, I just kind of ad-libbed a bit and changed a few things around, but not much of it got changed. And the rest of the book, it just flowed. And like I say in the beginning of the book, it stems from, a lot of it is written by, in the supermarket, listening to people's conversations, listening to people's conversations on the bus, me inventing things in my head as well. And that's where it came from. I wanted it because people say fiction doesn't sell, but I wanted to prove people wrong as well that it does. But it, I wanted it to be something completely different, and I wanted it to be exciting, and also I wanted it to have bits in there that people would find parts of themselves in the book. So it's obviously fiction is reality with lots of things made up around it to make it explosive. And that's exactly what I've done. It is based on real life, fantasy, it's a mixture of things that tells a big story that people can relate to.
Yeah.
And then I suppose came the photography. The photography came before the book. The photography came working with children with disabilities. And I was constantly taking pictures of children, and somebody said to me, one of the parents said, oh, why don't you become a special needs photographer? And I said, oh, no, you can't just single it out like that. So I didn't do it. I just continued taking photos. And then one of the children that I was working closely with passed away. And the parent of that child asked me at the funeral to take photos. And back then, people weren't taking pictures of funerals. It wasn't the done thing. But I did. And then I thought to myself, do you know what? I actually quite like that, to see that, I've given something back to people. And then, there was parents complaining, saying, I can't take my child to a studio because they're in their chairs and they didn't have space for them in the studio. And, then they put all these lights on. My child was having a fit because of the lights and blah, 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 and all of this. So I thought, do you know what? I can do this. It's right up my street. I can do this. I can do this for these parents. So I then think that the photography was probably my main turning point, and it opened up so many doors to the photography world. And once I was out there, I thought, I need a different niche. I need something that people are going to want to employ me. So I decided that I was going to start making my own backdrops, which I called on-the-floor backdrops, for children with disabilities in wheelchairs, so that they could be taken out of their wheelchairs, and feeding tubes and stuff were then used as part of a rocket or something, So that was, and then everything just kind of started to interlock. So once I was doing the photography, the book was expanding more, and then I thought, okay, yes, I need to get this published now. And then all the other arts and things that I wanted to do, i.e. the quilling and things, like everything just started to manifest, and it all just started to, and then next thing I was, there were so many things going on, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, how do I control this? And then I remember speaking to you and you saying, one thing at a time. And I had to choose one of those things. And I did choose. I chose the photography, and yeah.
So tell me about, we're just going to wrap up now, but what I want to hear from you is, during that authentic turning point, what was it inside of you that propelled you to make that ultimate decision to go forward?
So I think I was trying too many different things, and there was so much, my head is filled with so much creative things, and I needed to grasp onto something, but there wasn't one thing in particular that was kind of like resting within me. And I needed to stop and listen to myself. And I thought, okay, which one of these am I actually really interested in? Which one of these is actually going to start to open doors? And after a few weeks, I think it was the photography that was then kind of pulling at me. And then came the newspaper outfits and then I thought, gosh, I can photograph so many things. I can do so much things. I can photograph so much stuff. And then I started to build and interlock a lot of the other things in with the photography. So I think at that turning point was realizing that what I've got is different to what's out there, and that I could do so much more with the photography. And it is starting to move it more into different directions. Yeah. Directions that I'm not actually, that I hadn't actually planned.
From making that decision.
From making that decision,
point.
yeah.
Great.
And there was, like for instance, a few weeks ago, somebody came to me and they wanted to have some photos done. And I said, whilst we was photographing, I said, do you know what? Something came to me and it was like, actually, I want to photograph people with mental health. Yeah. And just have like music in the background that they can flow to and just doing snapshots of them, and yeah, so brilliant. So as we wrap up, tell me one word that you would choose in this particular moment that choosing to take your authentic turning point. What one word would you say it gave you? It gave to me peace. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Paulette, thank you so much for your time. It's been so always good talking with you. Thank you for sharing with your journey with us today, right the way from your youth, right the way to where we are now. Thanks everyone for listening to Authentic Turning Point today with myself and Paulette Owusu. Thanks again, Paulette. Listen everyone, remember to like, share, comment and subscribe. See you soon. Bless you.